Today I'm looking at the Classic Army EC2. It is one of their Skirmish Line series guns. All their Skirmish Line M4s are going to have the same internals as this, so it doesn't matter if it's a Delta 10 or 12 or the the KM12 and just the regular M4A1. Even the their SCAR sort of looking thing, the ISSC 22. They all have the same internals. Let's see. So this was made to look like the Teardown gun they had years ago. And that was all metal, blowback, blah, blah, blah. They have a gun like that now that's not blowback, that is full metal. They just don't call it Teardown anymore. So this thing has some Troy flip-up battle sights. Well, they're not actually Troy, but they look like them. So it's pretty cool. Just flip those down. It has a URX style rail with some snakeskin style rail covers. I've pre-loosened that to show you. And the rail, the bottom comes off. I'll take this mag out. And just kind of hinges up in the front. There it goes. And I think it's so you can put a grenade launcher on it, something like that. But it's wobbly on the sport line. On the metal one, the Pro Line gun, it's not wobbly at all. But this is like a nylon, high impact plastic, sort of like the combat machines are made out of in the Elite Force M4 CQB and CQC are made out of. So it's a nice high impact plastic. It's not like ABS. Barrel's metal, buffer tube's metal, as is the little sling plate, and all the other little buttons and stuff, metal. But let's put this back on. What's up? So really no reason to take that off. The flash hider, glued on, whatever. It's 14mm negative. If you want to take it off, put a suppressor on there, or whatever you want, metal flash hider. The upper is that MUR style, actually I don't think this one has a locking bolt. No, it does not. But the upper is that MUR style modular upper. That doesn't do anything obviously, but can't open that. Let's see, and back to the stock, standard crane stock. Nothing really special. Let's take it off so it's out of the way and easier. The simple press down on the two tabs to pop it off. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I wouldn't do that when it's cold because you'll probably snap those tabs off. And plenty of space for the included 9.6 1600 milliamp battery. Goes right in there. The battery is actually a nice battery for a entry-level gun. A lot of times you come with like an 8.4 1100 or something crappy. But this 9.6 1600 milliamp battery will last you a good day of playing. Unless it's really, really cold out like it is right now. The charger comes with is a trickle charger. It's crap, so just get a smart charger. They're $20 for a smart charger, and you won't cook your battery. So, just put this back together. Like I said, standard crane stock. It's got some flashing. It's not like the fancy line, so if that bothers you, you can shave it down with the back end of a knife or something like that, just to get rid of the ridges. Magazine. I'm not sure if this is the magazine it comes with, because on the gun wall, people like to pull out the magazines even though we tell them not to, so it may come with this, it may come with a snag looking mag, but this was what it was on the wall, so. But it looks sort of like a PMag, it has some texturing in there. High cap, 300 something rounds. Wind it all the way till it clicks, it'll feed most of the rounds. And I'll put that aside too. And buffer tube, no, I'll show you that after I take the rail off. We'll work our way back. So we're going to need some sort of punch and a hammer. Pull that out. Oh, by the way, all of these sport lines have the same serial number. The skirmish lines have the same serial number, number 1. The Pro Line ones all have a unique serial number. So, there's that. Alright, so, gotta get this off without... There we go. I was afraid that was going to scratch it. It did not. Good. So we'll look at that in a second or two. upper. And just pull this hop up out. Oh, we can hear the plow plowing the driveway out there. So it's got a nice brass barrel. A little greasy on the outside. Always clean your barrels when you get your gun, because I mean they're coming all the way over from China. Who knows what's in there? I'll just look through this thing. It doesn't look too scuzzy, but there could be still oil in there, and that affects your accuracy. So this hop is the clicky wheel style one. It's nice positive clicks. So it's sort of like how they had on their Scar before, the Classic Army Scar that's been copied a lot. And it's aluminum, it's metal. Actually probably pot metal, cast pot metal. So in there we have just a standard bucking. Nothing special, I'm not going to take it apart. But it can fit whatever. Let's see what the bore on this barrel is. This isn't like perfect. Oh, it's got a good crown. Good crown to that thing. Well, it's saying like 6. Come on. 604, 603, 605. I think it all depends how I turn it and whatnot, and if I go side to side. So I'm going to say it's at least a 605. You can look on the website. I know the Proline guns are supposed to come with a 603. So it is a Type 4 and it is a quality barrel. A lot of it is just how clean and smooth your barrel is on the inside, of how well it performs. You don't need like super tight or wide or whatever. You just want smooth on the inside so the BB can ride down it. You know, light rides along the top of the barrel. May bounce in there. I don't know. I have yet to cut one of these away and shoot it down a plastic tube or something. I guess you'd have to get a plastic or a lucite tube, the same diameter, to actually see what it does. And a high-speed camera, which I don't have. I don't think I'd have ever own a high-speed camera fast enough to record that, to see exactly what a BB does inside the barrel. But they do right along the top because the bucking puts backspin on it. So that's nice. And it's brass too. I like brass barrels. They don't bend as readily as aluminum. Stainless steel is a little more expensive and nice, but yeah, brass works. That's why a lot of companies use brass. So just stick that back in there for safekeeping. Alright, shut that off. So here we have the lower receiver with the Sportline gearbox in it. And in the back we have a MOSFET. It comes with a Dean's adapter, because it's already Deansed from the factory, and Dean's is the way to go, or these actually aren't real Deans. These are more accurate, I guess you'd call them a T-plug, because they're not real Deans. But, so you got that. And here's the MOSFET. I have one I prepared earlier. I took the heat shrink off of it. So here you see the actual MOSFET. It's actually using it as like a relay. So there's a low voltage signal going to the trigger contacts down this blue wire, and both the positive wires, I believe on this one, will go to the just one post on the gearbox. And on the negative, I believe it's a split negative one. Yeah, it's a split negative style MOSFET. You can do them on the positive lead, you can do them on the negative lead. Negative lead seems to be the most popular way of doing it. So we got MOSFET, we have 2 resistors to drop the amperage or voltage down for the signal lead so it doesn't arc. And it's with these 2 guys here. I'm going to need like something to point, because those are small. Let's see. Alright. So, resistor, I think this one's like a 100 ohm, 4700, and that is a diode right there. What the diode does, electricity can only go one way through a diode. So if you get like a backfeed of electricity, it won't blow out your MOSFET, which can happen. So that essentially protects the MOSFET right there, that diode. And on the other side we have a 30 amp fuse, so That fuse shouldn't blow with most LiPos. Sometimes you can blow a LiPo with a 20 amp fuse, especially if you have a stiff spring in there. And I believe this is conformal coated too. I think there is definitely some sort of lacquer or something on it. So yeah, and they soldered the T-plug connector right in there. So should be nice and durable. This is like their second revision of MOSFETs. Their first ones did not have the diode right there, and that can lead to unfortunate accidents. Say you accidentally short out a wire against the gearbox, you can melt stuff down if you accidentally short out a wire. So be careful with electricity. Oh, and here's because people use these a lot because they're cheap. This is sort of the JG and APS style MOSFET. With this one has a 20 amp fuse on it, MOSFET, and 2 resistors. This one is actually blown because its MOSFET's blown. It had probably a surge backfeed electricity, and probably blew that out because no diode to shunt it. And also, I mean, it's got. Why would you have a MOSFET and put Tamiya connectors on it? Just garbage. So that's that. So there's a little MOSFET. So let's start by taking apart the ancillaries on this. So we'll take off this motor plate here, this heatsink. This one does not have little brass ferrules in the grip, so those aren't machine screws, they're coarse, so be careful taking those in and out. You can strip out the plastic, but there's ways to fix that, and maybe I'll make a video on it. But it's adjusted from the factory. Don't really mess around with it unless you know what you're doing. I've seen people come in and they're like, oh my god, it doesn't work, it makes a weird sound, and they've messed around with this. And a lot of times I'll adjust it, then put Loctite on it so they can't mess around with it more. So we got... And as these wires are these silver-coated wires, these look to be 18 gauge. The color coding is done with the heat shrink, so you know which is which. I'm gonna need some sort of wire to pull that out. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So, regular motor. Back in the day, this would have been called a torque motor, but we have like the Neo torque motors now, so it's not like a thing, you know. It's just a motor now. And it still says Classic Army Sport Line on it. That's what they used to call these back in the day. They used to call it, instead of Skirmish Line, it was called Sport Line. And I think Classic Army was the first to call their inexpensive line of guns Sport Line guns, to differentiate them from the usual guns they were selling, the more expensive guns they were selling. So, pressed on, looks like a cast piston on that. Plastic bushings, I think. Yeah, plastic bushings on this bushing here, underneath this. And just standard motor. Let's take this grip off. Just line up. A little hard to see in there when your lights are all set to light up stuff like a gun instead of look down a grip. And this is the correct sort of orientation for wires in an M4. We have the positive coming out the back, negative coming out the, well, positive coming out the front, I guess that is the front on your screen, and out the back is the negative, and it's slightly longer on the positive, so it can go over and down. So when you put the motor in, you know, it goes up and over like that. That is how it's supposed to be. So let's take this off. Be careful taking those off because you can snap these. But these are just 0.11 of an inch uninsulated female crimps. So if you're looking for those. And generally the spade connectors are the, you know, male, so 0.11 of an inch male uninsulated crimp, or quick disconnect. All right, so that is a Allen, and it's tiny. And it's 1.5. So 1.5 millimeter on that. And this is metal. Some sort of cast, maybe pot metal or aluminum. Actually, I can test if it's steel or not. Not steel. Alright. Anything else that needs to come off? Yes, this thing. Okay. So these are advertised to have a quick change spring feature, and it is quicker than normal. It's just that you have to take it out of the receiver. The Proline guns, you can unscrew the buffer tube. And again, trying to find the screw in the darkness here. Oh, you can see that when I undid the tension on that, it dropped that body pin out. Almost there. Yep. So I'm not going to bother. There we go. I'm not going to bother taking the MOSFET off, but you can see it does have quick disconnects if you need to take it apart into little rubber covers over the exposed parts if you need to remove it for maintenance or whatever. So you just got your standard little keeper for your buffer tube. Buffer tube is, well, it does have a separate castle nut. But hey, buffer tube, sling plate adapter. So you saw this fell out. So I guess the tension of the stock was keeping that on or in. And now we have the trigger pin, or the floor pin. I think when you're taking these guys out, just give it a light tap so you're not driving they're knurled in through the gun. It's probably, let's see. It's usually the opposite of the side that these pins go on. And it's actually kind of stiff in there. Wow. Maybe I am punching the ferrules through there. Let's see. I am, yeah. So they put it in on the same side. Sometimes it's on the opposite side, but you can see it's sort of, it's knurled, so it grabs onto the gearbox shell. And if you put it in and out too many times, you'll eventually strip out the gearbox. This is metal, and that's plastic, so metal will win in the end. All right. Now I'm starting to get a little greasy here. There's some silicone greasing outside of this thing. Just kind of wipe that off. I don't think they've come out with any front-wired guns yet. So I think they're all going to be just like this. So put the selector sort of 45 degrees. You can usually pop it out. Oh, I think these have that metal selector. So what we're going to do is take a flathead screwdriver, kind of hold down the front, give it a little encouragement up and out, just like that. Don't want to be too harsh on it. It doesn't have a metal selector. It must be only on the Pro lines. Alright, so there's low receiver. It's nylon plastic, nice and flexy. So it'll take some hits and bumps without getting broken. Let that grease off there. So we got gearbox. We got 9mm bushings. Probably some sort of sintered steel, maybe. Yeah. What else we got out here? Regular, just sort of gearbox. You know? Nothing special on the outside. So we're going to pull the reverse latch so we have no tension. It's another reason I think, changing the spring on this should really kind of got to do out of the gun. So you can pull that so it's just easier with the little spring release here. Oh, and that guy's small and deep. Yeah, I ran into that on the Scarab. The Allen wrench spots for the quick disconnect spring guide are shallow. So what am I going to do? So I could go grab an Allen wrench, or I could stick a sort of wide flathead screwdriver in there. And there we go. Okay. Maybe an M110 spring. So this is going off. Yep. So it looks to be some sort of metal, steel, and this is like Delrin or nylon, so your spring can smoothly rub up against it and it won't bind on it. And it doesn't really need to be lubricated because it's kind of like a self-lubricating plastic. And it's got a little washer down there to use as sort of a pseudo bearing. Oop, and it's greasy. All right. Screws are unscrewed. They are coarse screws, so when you screw them back in, don't over tighten them. If your drill has a clutch on it, set it all the way down. So you don't strip them. And here we go. It's a non-reinforced style gearbox. And we have what looks to be just some clear silicone grease. A bunch of shims. It's nice and clean inside. I think the quality was better on the Scarab casting quality, or maybe they just polished them more, but it's got more ejector marks and all that. But the Scarab is like not a completely different gearbox, but it goes through a different process. So we got that. Alright, so there's like no compression there. So whatever speed it's getting purely from the spring and the air brake on the front of the spring. These holes on the front of the piston spread out the O-ring as it goes forward under high speed. The spring does, so it bulges out the piston. And one metal tooth. It is looks like a nylon fiber reinforced plastic. And yeah, white, clear. I was gonna say white. It is clear silicone grease used all over it. But yeah, a little disappointing it's not a better seal, because I think the Scarab had better compression. So yeah, if you go fast, you can hear it start to springs out. No, it's a trigger. And that spring fell down there. I'll get it later. But yeah, so once it goes fast, it'll puff out the O-ring and make the seal. And this has plenty of room to do it. It's got like about an inch, because you get your port here. So anything after this essentially doesn't matter. So with the port, you're kind of trying to match the port, so the volume of air up here to the volume of air in the barrel. So let's take this off. So if you do it quick, you can kind of get it. But nozzle is O-ring style. It's the head. It's in there pretty good. So we know the Pro line guns are bore up. Are the sport line or skirmish line guns bore up? Let's see. Actually, okay, yeah, it is 0. Sport line guns, I wouldn't really call that bore up. Yeah, that's 24 millimeters, I believe, is the sort of the regular size, cylinder size. So unlike the Pro line ones, they're not bore up. Yeah, 23.3. So not bore up on the skirmish line guns. So doesn't matter too much, but if you want to over volume, which every kid's doing it now these days, I mean, you could put a solid. You could over volume easily with this barrel by just putting a solid cylinder in. or go bore up and go crazy. So, what else we got here? We have gears. These look to be sort of a sintered metal, steel. Obviously, I think they're steel. Yeah. Shimmed and everything. And reverse latch. The post for it is heat treated. Let's see how the shimming is. So I guess we can start with this middle guy. It's kinda, yeah. Nope, not as shimmed as well as a Pro line. I mean, it's not horrible like some guns are, but still plenty amount of play. You could, if you wanted to tune your gun, make it a little quieter, whatever, you could shim it. And this guy here. Let's see how this guy is. They're shimmed away from each other, so that's good. They're not riding on each other, which some really poorly shimmed guns are. So let's see. And plus I'm not screwing this together either, so that is far less play. So yeah, far less play on that, on the sector gear. And on bevel gear. Hold no. It shimmed a little better. I mean, there is a reason they don't shim the bevel gears that great from factory. It just because they just adjust sort of the mesh with the motor. It's much easier just to adjust the mesh with the motor when you're making, you know, hundreds of guns a day, instead of shimming it perfectly to the motor by using the bevel to some sort of hair, the bevel to pinion sort of method. So you see here, it goes in a pop setup. So, but that's not bad. I mean, guns have been made this way for years. But if you want it like quiet or, you know, most efficient or whatever, most people go bevel. I don't, because I just always did it by the spur. Did the bevel last. All right. So, yeah, we have, these look to be probably 18 to 1, judging by how close the inner gear ring is. The inner teeth are to the edge of the sector gear. You can usually tell that way. When they're flush, it's usually 18 to 1. When they're slightly out, they are a higher torque, and when they're further in, they are a lower torque. Or, you know, so further in, you'd see like your 13 to 1s, 16 to 1s. Well, and outside, you'd have your 22 and 32 to 1s. But no one ever really does high torque gears anymore because we have neomagnet motors and lithium batteries. So it's not really needed in this day and age. You could do a high torque build with like 13 to 1 gears and just a crazy ass motor and pull your heavy spring, no problem. So yeah, that's also steel. It is sharp. They say these are wire cut, so I'm assuming, and there's marks on it too. So I'm assuming that, well, I looked it up, it's electrical discharge machining. So I'm assuming they go through after they're cast and finally cut these with a sort of it's like a wire, sort of discharged on a wire thing, and cut these out. Just a little post for the sector, or the tappet plate. So, not going to be super high speed. And spur gear. It's a one-piece design, well, except for the shaft, obviously. But yeah, also feels sharp, so I think they did the same thing. I think they're cast and then they're EDM cut, especially on these ones with the profile on the outside. Or this one's probably cast. metal, injection metal molding, or whatever it is, sintering. So plenty of grease, not crazy like that photo I shared on Reddit of like it was some really cheap Chinese gun, and it was just like massive amounts of grease, but none really on the gears, but on the side of the gearboxes. So this is sort of a clear silicone grease, sort of a light coating. And we have the switch there, which looks like the pin got stuck on that. I guess that wire must have poked out sometime during the assembly process and got nicked by the cross pin. So there you go. Oh, so here's your signal wire, this red one. So that is the low voltage signal, and you have your 2 positive wires going to the bottom contact. So there's always, this one's always live. Your positive wire is always live. So when you complete the circuit, it sends a low voltage signal. Probably it's usually like 4 volts down the red wire up to the MOSFET, and it activates the MOSFET to switch the power from, to power on the negative to complete the circuit up here for the high voltage line on the negative side, so the electricity can flow. But the wires they're nice and they're out of the way down there. Sometimes you get guns that it kind of hangs up. The wire will catch on that, catch on the pinion, but these appear not to be. Oops. Yeah, so I get clearance, which is good. I think any bigger wires and you'd be catching on that. So yeah, this wire should actually be down a little bit, so it doesn't get nicked by the floor pin. But you can see the coating got a little bit of a nick in it. And your typical safety. There is no electrical safety on the back, which in this day and age no one really does that anymore. But that was sort of Marui's thing, where you could put the gun on safe and it also cut the power off as well. So there'd be no, even if it was on safe and there was a short circuit somewhere, the power, once you put it on safe, would be cut as well. Because there was like 2 little ears and then the metal plate on the other side of this. You'll see that every now and then on some guns. But yeah, overall, a nice beginner gun.